This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for Monday, October 14th, 2024. I'm Marek Mazurek. For the past 4 years, Conexus has administered manufacturing readiness grants, which are meant to encourage small and mid-sized manufacturers to invest in new technologies. In that time, Conexus has awarded $57 million on behalf of the IEDC, and the group says that financial support has been successful in getting businesses to think to the future. Conexus's Vice President of Innovation, Mitch Landis, said advanced or robotic manufacturing equipment is falling in cost, and with just $100,000 or $200,000 extra, even small businesses can afford it.
These technology elements are they're within reach of your annual budget for a lot of manufacturers. They're just kind of outside the norm of having an annual budget for it. It's a bit of a stretch, and that's what we've done with this program. We're not prescriptive telling manufacturers what they should adopt. We're inviting them to think strategically about their business.
The Manufacturing Readiness Program started with an allocation of $4 million a year, which has now grown to $20 million annually. Conexus's data shows that each dollar spent in grants results in an average of $13 in capital expenditures. Fort Wayne Mayor Sharon Tucker on Monday announced that Indianapolis-based Barrett Realty Investments is moving forward with a $45 million mixed-use development in the city's downtown. The Wells Street Wedge will feature 111 housing units, 3,300 square feet of ground floor retail space, and a 236-space public parking garage. The development will go on a 2.25-acre site on the north side of the St. Mary's River, northwest of Promenade Park. The city said in a release that the project is the first major new private development on the north side of the riverfront. The Fort Wayne Redevelopment Commission is set to consider multiple resolutions related to the project during its meeting Monday afternoon. They include amending an economic development agreement, TIF fund items, and using future parking garage revenue for a lease payment on the public garage. Pending all those necessary approvals, construction on the project could begin in early 2025, with the parking garage slated for completion in 2026 and the remainder completed in the summer of 2027. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Indiana, your bold future starts here. IBJ Media, Inside Indiana Business, and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation invite you to the Engage Indiana series, presented by CareSource, Indiana University, and Old National Bank. With an unrelenting focus on growing Indiana's economy, our Engage Indiana events take place in every region of the state. Discover when we'll be in your area at ibj.com/engage.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture is projecting record soybean crops for the U.S. and Indiana, which could mean smaller earnings for farmers. The USDA's October World Agricultural Supply and Demand estimates say the U.S. is on track for over 4.5 billion bushels, while Indiana could see almost 350 million bushels. The 2024 U.S. soybean crop would be a record and 10% larger than last year's crop, the news release said. Based on those projections, the chief economist of the Indiana Farm Bureau is telling farmers to reassess their profitability expectations. Due to the increased supply of soybeans, the Farm Bureau says profit margins will continue to be squeezed and farmers may need to use working capital or increase operating debt to meet liquidity problems. The USDA is also calling for this year's corn crop to be near a record high. And Chicago-based True Value Company on Monday began voluntary bankruptcy proceedings with the goal of selling its business operations to Fort Wayne-based Do It Best Corporation. True Value said in a bankruptcy filing that it has entered into an agreement with Do It Best whereby the company will serve as a leading bidder for True Value's assets with an initial cash offer of $153 million and the assumption of up to $45 million in additional liabilities. True Value serves 4,500 independently owned hardware retailers and has stores in more than 24 Indiana communities. True Value says it has secured more than $15 million to continue operations during the bidding process, which is slated to continue until November 18th. Meanwhile, Do It Best is the largest private company in Indiana with more than $5 billion in annual revenue, according to IBJ Research. The member-owned Hardware, Lumber, and Building Materials Cooperative has nearly 1,700 total employees, including about 470 in Indiana. Mishawaka-based Franciscan Health is spreading around nearly $500,000 in charitable giving to give dozens of health and community not-for-profits a financial boost. The health system's Social Impact Partnership Program announced last week it is awarding $448,000 in total to address health issues among vulnerable populations. Programs receiving funding range from Catholic archdioceses to food banks to housing support and mental health advocacy groups. Organizations all over the state and even a few in the southern Chicago suburbs are receiving funding. A full list of programs receiving money can be found at Franciscan Health's website. From small-town New England to the heart of the Midwest, Indiana Chamber of Commerce CEO Vanessa Sinders is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast hosted by Gary Dick, presented by PNC. A weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Mark Mazurek for Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand.